everyone. Today we are going to discuss the part 2 of the Business and Accounting Studies G.C.E. O-Level Past Paper for the year 2020. So let's get into the first question. Question number 1. So question number 1 is a compulsory question. It has 10 parts. It usually has a case based on which the 10 questions are made. So first, take your time, read the entire case while making notes on the side. Okay, that's the most intelligent way that you could save time and also not get distracted while reading. So while we read the case, let's jot down our points. So let's read the case first. Siri, a graduate of environmental management, decided to produce lunch boxes using fallen areca nut leaf sheets of his father's large areca nut estate. He started the business with his sister Lakmini as Siri Lak Products. Okay, so usually what they ask is it's a partnership, but the name is not in the partner's name, it's in Siri Lak Products. So be careful on that. On 1st March 2020. So when did they start their business? They have started their business on March 2020. So make sure you remember the dates. To produce lunch boxes by collecting, cleaning, drying and processing the fallen areca nut leaf sheets in the areca nut estate and recruited required employees. So their business is to produce, you can see here, is to produce lunch boxes. Okay, now to produce lunch boxes there is a manufacturing process. They have specified it here: collecting, cleaning, drying, processing. All those entire process is done through Sri Lak Products, and now they have hired required employees as well. The business was started by employing rupees 50,000. Now you can see here how much did they initially put in. They have put in 50,000 each from Siri and Lakmini. So together, if you can make a note over here, 50 into 2. So nearly 100,000 they have put in. 100,000 by form of money. Now they have not directly said it's in the form of cash, but when you read it, when the term says employing rupees 50,000 each, we know, okay, this is in the form of cash. So initial capital coming as 100,000 in the form of cash, and a small lorry, okay, and a small lorry of rupees 300,000. So here you can see of rupees 300,000 belongs to Siri, was employed to the business on the same day. So we had 100,000 in the form of cash and 300,000 in the form of a motor vehicle. So all together on the, when did they start the business? You can see on the 1st of March they have started it. So on the 1st of March, initial capital was 400,000 and total assets was 400,000, zero liabilities. 100 out of the 400, 100 was in the form of cash, 300 is in the form of a small lorry. Okay, now we'll move on. Following are the transactions related to the production of lunch boxes for the month of 2020. Now be careful, they have given you the transaction relating to production of lunch boxes for the month of 2020. So initially you had 400,000 capital, 400,000 asset. Now the company is starting on businesses. Okay, let's read the transaction. Purchases of processing, fixing and detergent material of lunch boxes in cash. So they have bought detergent material to process and fix the lunch boxes. So that was 18,000. Paying monthly wages of lunch box maker 20,000. So this was monthly wages. So just for her safe hand side, you can put a mark over there saying monthly. electricity bill for the month of March but not paid. So you can see not paid as of 31st March is 4,000. So here you can just mark it here saying expenses and liability. If you want, just put EX over here so that you don't confuse it with equity. Cost paid for molds of lunch boxes 30,000. So when you are making the lunch boxes, you need a mold through which you could shape the lunch boxes. So it's like a asset to you. So for the cost to purchase those molds were 30,000. Molds of lunch boxes should be depreciated by rupees 1,000. So here remember monthly depreciation. So be careful. Monthly depreciation is 1,000. Following are the transactions related to the distribution of products. So earlier we saw production, now we can see distribution. So while you read itself, you should understand, okay, somewhere down the line they might ask you a profit and loss. Okay. So during the month, distribution related expenses were paying driver wages of rupees 30,000. No arrears, you totally incurred it. So it's an entire expense. Paying fuel and maintenance expenses of the lorry rupees 20,000. Distribution lorry should be depreciated by 20% annually. So remember, if it's 20% annually, in case you are finding net profit for a month, 20% divided by 12 should be used. So let me make it a bit more clear. So over here 20% is an annual depreciation factor. So if you are finding it for a month, 20% divided by 12 must be used per month. Okay. Lunch boxes are distributed to supermarket on credit basis during credit basis. So whenever they are sending it to supermarkets, it's done on credit basis, not on cash. During the month of March, 600 lunch boxes were produced. Okay. 600 lunch boxes were produced and all were distributed at rupees 200 each, subject to 10% trade discount. Now here you should understand, let's make a side note here. 600 was produced, 600 was sold. So there is no opening closing stock for final good. There is no any final good opening or closing stock. So keep that in your mind. What is the price at which they sold? So you need to know your sales. So if you take your sales, 600 was sold at what price? Is it 200? Is 200 the final price? No, you can see here 200 each, subject to a 10% trade discount. Now whenever there is a trade discount is different from the usual cash discount that you give. Trade discount is even before you mark it on the bill. When you negotiate itself, you offer that particular discount. Now for example, if you go shopping somewhere, you will find a marked price on a good. When you talk to the vendor, the seller, when you are talking itself, he will agree on a price. He will say, okay, let's bring it down to this price. And then he will put that on the bill. But sometimes even after putting it on the bill, if it's on a credit basis, let's say you bought it it was marked for 2,000, you were able to negotiate, bargain and get it for 1,500. Now 1,500 has to be paid in 1 month. Now the seller is telling you, look here, if you pay the 1,500 on the spot right now itself, I will give you a further 10% discount. Now 1,500 is going to be your invoice value. On top of that invoice value, you are getting another 10%. That 10% will be a cash discount. but the initial 500 you got would be a trade discount. Now here 200 each subject to a 10% trade discount, meaning out of, did you get the entire 200 for a lunch box? No, you only got 90% from the supermarket. You don't have to mark anything as discount allowed. No, nothing like that. When you engage in the trade itself, you have offered this 10%. Okay. In case you didn't understand the difference between trade and cash discount, I will put up another video elaborating on this, because so many students make a mistake when it comes to this trade and cash discount. So keep that in mind. So 200 into 90% would get you 180. The remaining stock of processing, fixing, detergent material of lunch boxes as at 31st March 2020 is rupees 7,000. So 7,000 is the closing stock when it comes to the detergent material. So keep in mind, this is the closing stock. Remember earlier you spent 18,000 over here. 18,000 over here. So let me. 18,000 over here to purchase the detergent material. Now out of the 18, you have 7,000 left, which means you have used only 11,000. So put an asterisk mark here, mark it as used 11,000. Remember again, this is for the month. The demand for Sri-Lanka products is increasing with the decision of the government to prohibit polythene and plastic lunch boxes. So the business that they are doing is favored by the government. Government policies are in favor for this business. So that's a positive note. That's actually a opportunity for this business to grow. Now let's move into the question. Question 1. What is the basic human need satisfied by the Sri-Lanka products business? Now the business they are doing is production of lunch boxes. Why do you make lunch boxes? To carry your lunch. What's the purpose served by the lunch? Hunger. It fulfills your need to eat. So it's the need, human need for food, that is being catered through this particular business. Though it's not done directly now. It's not a catering business to directly meet the need of food or hunger. But here they are facilitating that need. So for question 1A over here, answer will be basic need would be food or hunger. Okay. Let me see whether I could change the color of it. No. Let's move on with red itself. Okay. State how Sri-Lanka products business fulfills the basic human need you mentioned in above warning. So how do they fulfill this human need for food or human need to fulfill their hunger? By producing lunch boxes to carry food. That's how they are meeting the basic human need for food. Let's move on to the next question. Write an example for the following production factors related to the lunch boxes produced by Srilanka Products business. To provide the answers, use a table similar to the one below. Now, in case the question says you to use a particular format, please use that format, because so many students, even though they clearly specify you to use a format, they still go ahead and start writing paragraphs. Remember, you need to save time while scoring the full mark. So be careful. They have given you a specified format. Use that specified format and stick to it. Don't write paragraphs justifying your answer. If the correct answer is not there, even though you have written paragraphs, no point. You have just wasted your time. You haven't scored any mark and you have lost possible marks you could have scored from other questions. So keep that in mind. So here the two production factors are land and capital. Now we know land as a production factor refers to the natural resources used by the business. Now in Srilanka's products, that particular business, the entire manufacturing process or distribution, what is the natural factor that they are using? That's the areca leaf sheets that are used for production. So here, example for land as a production factor is definitely the areca nut leaves that are used in production. Next, we have capital. Now this is fairly easy. Usually students get confused when it comes to land as a production factor, but here capital refers to any man-made item that will facilitate your manufacturing process. So here, of course, you have money, the initial capital coming in the form of cash. So you have money as a capital production factor. Then you have the small lorry as a production factor. Then you have the molds through which you can make the lunch boxes. Again, that facilitates your manufacturing process. So any of these three, they're just asking for one example. You can write any of the three for the answer for the second one. For capital as a production factor. For land, there is just one in the case, which is the areca nut leaves. Question 3a. Write a strength and an opportunity of Srilanka products. So they are asking for a strength. They are asking for an opportunity. Now opportunity we discussed again, government being in favor let me write it over here. Okay, in favor. Now that's a big opportunity for the business. Now what about the strength? What are the strengths that this business has? Number one is they are blessed with the areca nut estate. So estate of father is a strength. That will help Siri and Lakmini to grow their business. So that is one. Next, over here, it starts with this. Siri, a graduate of environmental management. So he is well educated. He knows what he is doing. He is not doing an unknown business. So second strength would be the education of owner. You have educated owners running the business. Okay, so again you could see when it comes to this particular question, in terms of opportunity there was just one, because case says, look here, government is favor to use all these environmental friendly products. So naturally demand is growing for this particular business. What is the strength that this business has in comparison to others or any other business? They could easily mobilize the main resource for their production, which is arecanut leaves. Why? They own the estate. So it's the father's estate. It belongs to them as well. They could easily source the raw material. Thereafter, owner has some kind of education, so that education will help them as well. In addition to that, you can even say the owners are financially sufficient enough to bring in a capital, because we saw they were able to put in nearly 400,000 together. So that's also a strength. But the question is asking you only for one strength and for one opportunity. Make sure you write just that. In case you are not sure, in case you feel like you need to write more, then okay, write more, but keep in mind you write separate clear points without spending time for just one point and elaborating. Question 3, then subsection B. Write 2 examples for private sector businesses included in the above business case. Now here they are asking 2 examples for private sector businesses. Now in the case, when we read through it, this is why I am telling you, you need to read it attentively. We saw a special mention on the distributor, which is supermarkets. So supermarkets is a private sector business. So that's one example. Next example would be Srilanka products. Even that is a private sector business. So these are the 2 examples. Using the Srilanka products business, write an example for each product and price which are variables of marketing mix. So again, product, let me write over here, is the lunch box. You could maybe elaborate saying lunch box made through arecanut leaves, but the mention of lunch box is enough. Next they are asking for price. Now here when you are writing, be careful, don't just write 200 rupees. You need to write 200 rupees subject to a trade discount of 10%. So these 2 are the answer for this. Write an example for each planning and organizing. Planning and organizing, which are management functions. Now here when it comes to planning, let me jot it over here. When it comes to planning, what were the example? Decision to make lunch boxes. To make lunch box from arecanut leaves. That itself is planning. What about organizing? Hiring required staff. We saw that when we read it, they acquired the needed staff. Then mobilizing capital, that's also organizing. How much? Mobilize capital. What do you mean by mobilize? To collect the required capital to do the business. So again, those 2 are examples for organizing. Planning is the main example for planning is the decision made by Siri and Lakshmini to do or enter into the business of making lunch boxes out of arecanut leaves. what is the capital of Cyrillax business as at 1st March 2020? Now this we did. That's what I tell you, it comes in handy when you read the case properly. We saw it was 400,000. Write two assets of Cyrillax business as at 1st March 2020. So when they started, what were the two assets? It was simply cash and small lorry. Question number 6. Write the double entry with values. Okay, they want the double entry with values to record the sales for the month of 2020 of Cyrillax products business. Now, again, let's move up. Now, when you read this part of the scenario, lunch boxes are distributed to supermarket on credit basis. So, looks like entirety of the production is put to the supermarket. There 600 was sold, and what's the price we saw? 200 over here, but there is a 10% trade discount. So the sale value essentially is, if you mark it over here, 600 into 180 should be your answer. So 600 into 180 is nearly 108,000. So this company's sale value just for the month of March, for the beginning month itself, is 108,000. Now you have to do the double entry here. Now I told you this is a trade discount, not a cash discount. So you will not do or touch the discount allowed account. This will be a PO prime entry that is coming in. The first time entry that you make in your books. So how do you make it here? Everything is done on credit basis. So obviously you will, let's move on over here. You will debit debtors and then you will credit sales. Now I don't have space to write the value, but you will essentially write 108,000 here, and under sales, under credit, 108,000. So you can see in your books there is no trace of the trade discount. It's only through negotiation, through bargaining, you gave that discount, no any other mark on the financial books. Question number 7. Write a prime entry book used in Cyrillax products business. So when it comes to this, you can write any prime entry book. Now we saw when they brought in cash as initial capital, obviously they would have had a cash book. They bought a small lorry, so obviously general journal will be there. They of course will have debtors ledger and they will have a creditors ledger as well. You can write any one prime entry book that you prefer. So easiest I would recommend is to write on cash book. Why? You definitely know they brought in money, so they have to mark it in the cash book. So in case they ask you any other related question as well, it will be easier. The next question, part B. Write a transaction for the prime entry book you mentioned in the above 7A extracting from the case. So that's why I told you go for an easier one. So here what is the transaction you need to write? Now remember, they're asking for a transaction. A lot of students went and wrote the double entry. They're not asking for double entry, they're asking for transaction. So what is one transaction that you know should come through the cash book? In capital investment. Sorry. Capital investment as cash 100,000 on 1st March 20. Now remember, when you are writing a transaction, it needs to be complete. It should have a date, it should have a value. So here you could see there is a capital investment made as cash to the business. That's the transaction. Question number 8. Calculate the cost of a lunchbox produced for the month of March 2020. Now again, this is a little bit tricky. Now they are asking cost of production of lunchbox. Now here you will of course have 18,000 minus 7,000. So over here it will be minus 7,000. So you will have 11,000 as detergent materials being used. Then you will have wages for 20,000. Okay, you will have an electricity bill, though it's unpaid, you have to use it in your costing, 20,000. And then cost paid for mold of lunch boxes. Now will you take that in as your cost, as a cost of production? No, I told you molds are required in your production process itself, so that becomes part of your non-current asset. So you can't charge it into your P&L as a one-shot cost. You have to depreciate it. So here the entire 30,000 won't be your cost, but the depreciation of 1,000 needs to be added. So let's take the total here. You have 31 plus 5. So here you have 36,000 as your total production cost. Now they are asking per lunch box. So 36,000 divided by 600 lunch boxes, meaning 60 rupees per lunch box is the cost. So answer for question number 8, cost of a lunch box produced would be 60 rupees. Calculate the net profit or loss of Srilanka product business for the month of March 2020. Let's move on here, so that will be easier. So here we know the total sale we saw was 108,000. Okay, 108. Then we saw cost of production was 36,000. So this will essentially get you the gross profit. That's about 72,000. But is that the net profit? No, there was some distribution cost as well that you need to include. So let's go through the distribution cost. So here they had 30,000 for distribution, 20,000 for fuel, so there's 50,000, and then you have to bring in 20% as depreciation as well. Lorry was 300,000. So here you will have 300,000. You will have to divide it, you have to multiply it by 20% and then divide it by 12. So of course you have 5,000 coming in as your depreciation cost. 300,000 into 20%, that will be 60. 60 divided by 12 would be 5. So altogether your distribution cost is 55,000. There is no any other expenses. Okay, so 55. So out of 72 over here, you will have to deduct 55,000 to arrive at your net profit, which will be 17,000. So your net profit, of course it's a net profit, and that net profit is 17,000 rupees. Write separately the total value of equity and total value of liabilities of Cyrilac Products business as at 31st March 2020. Now, if you take, let's take equity onto this side, we know at the beginning they had 400,000 as their opening capital. Now they have 17,000 as profit. So their equity month end will be 417,000. What about liability? The company, when you read through, you should have kept in your mind there was just one liability. They didn't have any other borrowings. That was just 4,000 by way of unpaid bills on electricity. So here total value of liability was 4. Equity is 417,000. So with that, question number 1 is dealt easily. We went through in detail, and if you tackle the first question like this, the 20 marks is guaranteed for you. Okay, thank you so much for listening in. We'll meet again with another video. Thank you so much for listening in. Subscribe to Learning Business for more videos.